Loren Ridinger is a successful entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and an influential businesswoman. Alongside her husband, JR, they pioneered Market America, empowering thousands of entrepreneurs to succeed on their own terms using the power of online shopping. However, Loren's journey took a heartbreaking turn, with JR's sudden passing after 36 years of partnership and marriage, leaving her to navigate an overwhelming grief while trying to maintain the legacy they built together. Loren has been instrumental in redefining the landscape of the online retail industry. Her company, which now operates in 9 countries, empowers individuals with the tools and resources to achieve financial independence and has paid out more than $6 billion to its global entrepreneurial base. Loren is known for her influential voice in beauty and business and self-development, and she has become a trusted advocate for elevating others to reach their fullest potential. Her new book, Scrambled or Sunny Side Up, Living Your Best Life After Losing Your Greatest Love, in which she tells the story of losing her partner of 36 years and husband, JR, and how that changed her to take her pain and turn it into purpose. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new season of Savvy Talk. And we are starting off with a banger. I am so grateful to have Loren Ridinger here with us here today, who has authored a new book, which is called Scrambled or Sunny Side Up. And it's an incredible book. I got done reading it. It's completely underlined. All the pages are dog-eared and marked. And just an incredible woman and a great story. And I really want everyone to encourage everyone to pick up a copy of this book. We're going to dive deep into the book and talk a little bit about her career and her life story and the lessons that I feel of business and leadership and love and how they all intertwine with each other. Loren, thank you so much for being here.
I am so happy to be here with you and your energy, and I just am a big fan, and I just adore you. So thank you for having me.
So let's talk about the name of the book and the premise of the book. This was built and written out of your love story, and it stems from the grief that you went through when you lost your beloved husband, Jay.
Yeah. Yes. And, I went back and forth on the name of the book, and it was just all of a sudden it hit me. No, Scrambled or Sunny Side Up is what he would wake up every morning and say, "Good morning, baby. Should I have my eggs scrambled or sunny side up?" And I would be like, I don't know. For 10 years, I thought that was super cool. And that was his love language that he communicated with me. And I would say scrambled. Some days it'd be sunny side up. It depend on the day. And, I think as you know, we all get busy and time moves so quickly that, on some days after 10 years and the 20th year and the 25th year and the 30th year together, I would be like, I don't know, baby. Oh, how do you want your eggs? It's your stomach. It's your food. I'm not eating any eggs today. And I would get frustrated, which is so crazy to me because it's the very reason I fell in love with him, that he cared about my opinion, that he cared about my input with everything, whether he got dressed, what he wore, what shirt he wore, what pair of pants he wore. And I would do anything today to have him ask me scrambled or sunny side up. And so it seemed so appropriate, so apropos, so fitting for what the name of the book should be. And I really want people to, and of course your life gets scrambled in grief and you can turn it
Yep.
sunny side up. But I really wanted people to pay attention because I realized after I lost JR that was his love language. Him asking me for my opinion on his eggs, him asking me to help him get dressed with my clothes and me doing it happily was part of the language that he expressed his love that way by showing me that he cared about my opinion. And even though he told me 950 times a day how much he loved me, to the point where it'd be like, he would say like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "To the bathroom." I loved him so much, but you lose patience with the people you love sometimes. And I really want people to think about that when they're in their own everyday life, not to get frustrated on the simplest things. And we do it with our children. I do it sometimes. We're all guilty of it. And I think, your grandkids can ask you, my grandkids can ask me something, and I'm the grandmother of the year, I say, but, we all lose our patience when really it's so simple. It would have been so easy for me to not get frustrated and say, you know what, scrambled.
Yep. And the story of the book you tell about what happened on your trip to Croatia and when your husband passed. And you talk a lot about, in every chapter I saw, like you're really trying to take your pain and turn it into a purpose. And you
Yeah.
talk about grief. You wrote, "Grief is an extension of love. It doesn't diminish it. It sharpens its presence."
It was really such an eye-opening experience for me because in the moment of the worst pain of your life, your love grows in a way that I don't even know how to express, and you hope that people don't have to go through it to understand it, right? Because you lost both your parents, and I knew grief. I was familiar with grief. I lost my mom early. I lost my dad at a young age, but I never felt anything like this because I knew Jared longer than I knew my parents.
Yep.
It was my life. He was my mentor, my coach, my husband, my best friend, my pain in the butt. You know what I mean? And so I loved everything about him, and I was really lost. And I didn't understand how in this pain my love could grow so much, but it did.
And you talk about turning your pain into purpose. How did you do that?
I really had to dig deep. When I lost JR, the craziest thing happened. I lost all my confidence. I've been doing this for 30 years with him. We had just celebrated our company's 30th convention just 2 weeks before, and I was broken. Everything I had done all the years before didn't matter. Everything I had done before, all the scoreboards that everybody had kept that I performed, none of them mattered. They all went outside into the trash. And I realized that in this grief, every day I would wake up, I'd get a shower, I'd get ready, I try to perform, but you're operating in a cloud.
Yep.
You're in a haze, you're in a lot of pain, you're trying to show up, and you can be in a room full of people and not see any of them there. But I realized that that pain that hurt so bad that I would have to show up anyway. And the more I did, the more my purpose became apparent again. My purpose had never changed. It just got lost along the way. It was so, I'd lost all my confidence. And then I woke up one day, 5 months after JR passed away. I went and performed and spoke at a big conference of ours. That was the biggest move ever. I could have canceled it. I could have found a reason. I had all the reasons in the world to cancel, but I did it anyway. I showed up. And I just told him, I'm not sure what I'm going to say, but all I can tell you is I'm going to speak from my heart, and I've never lost that way. And I'm going to give it all to you that way. And that's what I did. And I realized that my purpose was with people, and it never changed.
Actually, I think that story that you just told, you got the confidence, you were gonna go speak. It was the first time after he had passed where you were gonna face all of your, unfranchised group
All
and
of our
all of
salespeople.
your salespeople, and you took a decision that I thought was really incredible. You said, "I'm gonna be vulnerable. I'm gonna go out there, either if I talk a lot about the only way to get confidence is to take action. If you wait until you're confident, you're never gonna do it. So
You're going to be the smartest person and the brokest person in the cemetery.
yeah, and I read what you wrote. You wrote, "Today is the day you step up into your destiny, Lauren. I believe in you." And you got up on stage and you said, "I'm gonna just go out there and be vulnerable and say something that they're probably not expecting me to say." Why was your decision to kind of go out there and not be this perfect, confident
I couldn't.
woman and just tell them and then you said that the weight of the world came off your shoulders. When you became vulnerable, you were able to connect with them in a new way. What tell me
I
that
was
story.
I was afraid. I was afraid because it's the first time I'm there without JR, right? So JR is their leader and I'm their leader, but I was JR's mini leader. And I was a mini guy. And so but the second most important person, but I knew that he was my leader and I followed him and I knew how the people felt about him. And I knew that they loved me, but I didn't know how they would respond to me without him. And so I was afraid. And all my family was like, you can do this, mom, you can do this. But if you don't want to, you can easily cancel. And I was like, I know, but I don't cancel on things. I just do them. And I was even up until I remember as I'm sitting here, I remember the night before was like, I'm not sure what I'm gonna say, but I know it's gonna come from here. And I remember when my mom was alive, she died very young at 42 or 43. And I remember she said, as long as you speak from the heart, you'll always win. You'll always be great. As long as you tell and come from the heart, you'll always win. And I knew that the only way to survive this was to be transparent and to be honest. And that I knew I wasn't fully capable. And I knew that I was broken. But while I was broken, the company wasn't broken. And it was very important that they knew that somebody was still there.
Yeah.
And so I went out there and, it was amazing because a lot of my friends like Serena, who wrote the forward, everybody stood there and it was a magic moment for me that people stood in my life and believed in me, and the crowd went nuts and they were wild. And whatever I said, it did if it made sense or didn't, they loved it because I showed up and they believed in me, and I can't tell you the thousands of letters I received after that where people said, "I'm behind you. Wherever you go, I'll be with you."
It was such a powerful lesson in leadership for me when I read that. You wrote, "I want you to understand something. My heart might be broken, but we are not broken. This company is not broken. A broken heart can't break a company." Because as a woman being vulnerable at that as a leader, like I feel like you were able to connect with them in ways that I just think it's such a powerful moment as a leader. And I really hope people listening to this podcast today can take that lesson away from it. Like, in
Yeah, me
moments where you feel vulnerable and unsure, step up and do it anyways, because you
yes.
never know where the leadership moment example will come from, and you displayed that so beautifully. I was so moved
Oh,
I
thank
was so
you.
moved by that.
Oh, thank you, and I that means so much to me because it was such a big moment, it was a pivotal moment, and even though I was still in a haze, still in a daze, and some days you still are, right, when you're dealing with grief, it's something that I had to do for myself, and then every day thereafter, I remember I would wake up, and I still do it, I wake up, say, "Come on, Lauren, you're great, you can do this. You're great, go get 'em." And, and I do it every day now to remind myself that although he instilled so much belief in who I was and loved who I was and loved listening to me. He was the biggest cheerleader. I watch so many videos often, and so many of them are just watching his reaction to me on stage. And so I would visualize him in the front row,
I love that.
and I would see him cheering me on, and he'd always look behind him and make sure people were clapping with him. And I love that, and I loved everything about him that way. So it's really pushed me. And now I've realized that the belief always existed here.
Yeah, it was in
It was
play
always there.
time. Can we talk a little bit about imposter syndrome? You talk about it in the book, about a time where you had to speak and you San Antonio, and you almost fainted, and Houston, and
I did paint.
you did
I did
faint
paint.
in San Antonio, and then you were like, "I can't speak again," and
Oh, I wanted to break up with him.
you talked a lot about imposter syndrome. You say, "They looked for me for guidance, but I felt like a fraud, a hollow shell trying to fill the shoes. Imposter syndrome is real. Doesn't care how long you've been at the top."
Yeah, and it doesn't. And you just feel defeated before you believe in yourself. You feel defeated before you win, and you kind of bring yourself down, and you cannot let it get the best of you. You have to push through this. We all fall in love with the idea of something happening. We all fall in love with the idea of we want to be something. We fall in love with the idea, but what we have to do is remember we have to fall in love with the process. And so falling in love with the process over the idea is what will get us where we need
Need
to
to
be.
go. Okay, good.
You know,
What is the thing that, looking back now at that time, because now you're in charge and leading the company, and you've been in this is a business you built since the early 90s, back when no one was buying lipstick online. You guys kind of
nobody.
pioneered that.
They didn't even have computers back then.
They didn't have computers back then. How do you look back at that time now, knowing where we are in today's market with the internet and social shopping and live shopping and the trends of what's happening in the market?
I just, I never forget where we came from. I think, JR used to say, don't forget where you came from. You might not be able to find your way back. He really, what mattered to him was helping people. That was his scoreboard. He used to say, how many more people can we help today, team? It was never about money. He always made sure of it. He always made sure that, money's a great thing. It can help you with so many things. But he used to say, if we're not helping people, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I think I've lived my life by that. I've spent my life dedicated to others. When I went to a class for grief after I'd fired multiple therapists, I wasn't happy with any of them. And Serena had sent me a passage, and in that passage was a advertisement for a grief class, a public grief class. And she was like, I think you should go. And I went, and I remember when I walked in there, there's a few people in the room, and they all went around the room talking about, some loved their husband more than others. And I felt like none of them could understand me. Cause if you're in grief, you think everybody's pain can't be nearly as bad as
That is
yours.
yours.
It's only mine. And I remember hearing their story, and I was like, well, I didn't just lose my husband. I lost my best friend, my mentor, my coach. But I heard something that they lost that I didn't. And that was their way of life, the ability to send their children to school,
Mm.
the ability to make a mortgage payment, the ability to pay a house, a light bill, send their kids tuition money, buy food, have to go back to work after never working their whole life.
Yeah.
It crushed me because knowing what we felt like, imagine having to deal with both.
All of
And
that.
so many people do. And so I promised myself I really rediscovered my purpose in that moment. I realized I've always helped people. And somehow or another got lost along the way. This is my purpose. It's always been my purpose to help people. It's always been my purpose to be there to help people find a better way. It's always been my purpose to either help people through and to see a different way around grief, but embrace it for what it is, knowing that it's a form of love. And, I cried last night. I had my friends over here, had a full meltdown last night. I cry often, and I find beauty in it. I find beauty in it because I know it's a reflection of my love and what we had. And I think when you're not so hard on yourself, but you keep going, you keep pushing, you keep pressing, and you I'm full pedal to the metal. I don't know any halfway. I don't know how to do things just a little bit. And I've learned to also segregate an interesting part of me, this professional side of my life and this personal side of my life.
Yep.
And that's been very successful for me in this healing stage.
You talk in the book about you have an informal board of directors, and one of the things I coach people on is have a personal board of directors, people that hold you accountable, but your support system. How important was it for you in your journey and your story having that informal board of directors or support when you're going through all of this?
No, it's everything. I think it's everything. I think it's really important to have people that can hold you accountable. My whole life, I've had to hold people accountable, but for the first time, I needed the support. I needed the help, and I wasn't afraid to ask for it. And by the way, I gave myself a lot of grace. I was
Good.
sensitive. I also had no problem falling apart in front of people. Fully transparent. I've always learned that leading with love and being transparent is always the way to win. They may not agree with you, they may not understand, but they will be sensitive to it if you're being honest. And so I felt like it was so important for me to have that group, if you know what I mean, that supported me, that loved me, but also held me accountable and made me believe in myself when I was struggling. I was struggling a lot. I still struggle, but now it's like I talk to myself more. Now I remind myself, this is what you're made to do, Lauren. This is what you do. There's nobody better at it than you, Lauren. Go do it. And that's that daily conversation that we have to have with ourselves. And so often, as you know,
Yep.
we suppress that.
Yep.
We suppress it and we let somebody else's voice take over our head rather than that quiet whisper that's inside that says, I want to do this. I can do this. I believe in myself. And we just keep suppressing it when really we all have the ability to be anything we want to be.
I want to ask you about your personal brand because I believe obviously you built an incredible brand and as an entrepreneur and you're a leader, you have so many hats that you wear. Where do you find or how do you articulate who Lauren is and what Lauren stands for? And what are some of the first steps you took to kind of establish your own identity?
The funny thing is I never really set out to be a personal brand in any way, shape, or form. It's just who I am. It's part of my DNA. My DNA is to help people everywhere, to really live an authentic life, to be the best version of myself, and to prove that if I can do it, you can do it. I came from nothing. My husband came from nothing. We both had nothing to start. All we had was the hope and faith that we believed in each other and love. And we didn't know the way. I used to tell my mom, this marriage thing is hard. I don't know how this works. And she's like, nobody does. You just find your way you find a way through it, Lauren. You don't quit. You don't throw in the towel. You don't give up. You realize the grass is never green on the other side. You know what your issues are. You deal with them. You face them. Unless you're in some tragic situation, right? You work on it. It's so much easier to just, quit. It takes work to really make it work.
Yeah.
And I think that I have spent my life dedicated to empowering people and making people believe that I am as normal, natural as they are. That I've spent my life not changing. I've spent my life working to help people. And sometimes I always say people collect cars, they collect art, they collect jewelry. I collect people. I like collect people from all different walks of life so I can still stay true to who I am.
I saw that you coined the mantra powered by people.
Yeah, I
What
think
does
that
that mean?
powered by people so important to JR and I because it's like if anybody can do anything, it's people. If you wanna change laws, if you wanna change the way a community operates, if you wanna get people's attention, it can only happen by the group of people.
Yep.
People are the one force that can change the world. And so, our company was powered by people, and it was always so important to us, and that we're so driven by community. And, people have seen Jer and I have always been very honest that we've came from a background of nothing. We don't have anything fancy to show. There was nothing fancy then. And all the fancy stuff that we have now, let me tell you, even more so now than ever, never meant a thing to me. And it certainly don't mean anything now. Somebody asked me the other day, what about the money? I said, well, the money means nothing. When you leave, one thing now, I would give it all back to have my husband for one moment,
Yeah.
one single second of his life. You can't take it with you.
You can't take it.
But what you can take with you is the amount of people you help. What you can take with you is the thought of how people see you or look at you and say, you know what? She made a difference in my life. He made a difference in my life. And that's what I want people to walk away with. Tell people, I don't know if you saw it in the book, where on my second date, Jared took me to a cemetery.
Cemetery, yeah. Oh, I was gonna ask you about the dash. We're gonna talk about that next. Tell the story about the cemetery. Your
I thought
date.
he was no, I thought he was gonna kill me. I thought he was crazy because he first was driving like 85 miles an hour down the street. And I was like, I don't know if you know this. We're in North Carolina at the time. I was like, Jared, in this street, it's 35 miles an hour. He's like, well, if I had a license, I would go faster. He was crazy. And I liked him. And when we pulled up, I said, where are we going? I thought maybe he had to like drop some flowers off of the cemetery. I didn't know it was our second date. And he's like, get out of the car. It's like, okay. And he's like, get out of the car. And he walked up and down him. And I've kind of trailed behind him. And he's like, pick any one of them. Pick any one of them. Just pick any one. It doesn't matter to me. I was like, okay, this one. He goes, you see what they have in common? They all have a birth date and a death date. And I was 18. I was thinking to myself, he's insane. And he goes, what they have in common is that dash, that little line that represents their life. And he goes, and the thing is, they are the most talented people in the world, and most of them were never known. We never knew who they were. He said, when we leave here today, you and I are going on a journey. Let's do something with that dash. I think I fell in love with him at that very moment.
Yeah.
I think that was the moment that I knew that he's different. And I knew I wasn't going to die. I was questioning at first, but I knew he was different. And, I was mad in love with him from that moment. And I told him. And even then, I was vulnerable. Even then, I was transparent because this guy's on my second date. I was like, I think I'm falling in love with you. And he was like, well, I like you a lot, but don't let it go to your head. It took him a year or two before he even told me. So I was super vulnerable back then. I was willing to just give it all up for this dream that I saw with him. And here we are.
And the dash, just for everyone, just the dash is that time that you do between when you are born.
It's
When you
the dash.
How do you spend that dash? What are you gonna create in that time? We only have so much time that we're on this earth. We have to make it meaningful and full of purpose.
You can only fill up that line, that dash, that time between your birthday and your death date with the most beautiful things, the things that you want to do with your life. And Jared always had time on the brain. Always. It was, he was 18 years older than me. He should have lived longer than me. His family did. His grandmother did. Didn't make any sense. But his mind was always had time on the brain. And, Amber, my daughter, often tells me, Mama, I wouldn't have been able to care for him. He would not have survived without you. He could not move forward without you. He needed you too much. But, it's funny because he was always rushing me. He was like, time's running out on us. Got to do it now, baby. Whatever we want, we got to do it right now. And, a lot of that, I had to really forgive myself with because I had taken the time to put things on hold that he wanted to do in order to get to the 30th. October 17, 2021, he had written me a very private letter telling me, let's not worry about everybody. Let's not worry about Amber's going to be fine. The kids will be fine. Let's go spend the next few years doing something for us. And I was like, if you could just wait till August 15th, 2022, when we do our convention, I promise you, we're going to go away. I'll get a big yacht. We'll go away on vacation. And he's like, okay, but after that, I don't want to wait. And we went and we never got to finish our journey.
Loren, you're an incredible storyteller. I watched countless of your talks and your speeches, your inspiration. But you talk in the book, and it's the opening story of the book, and the closing story of the book is a letter. And I saw your video that you posted the other day of a trunk full of handwritten letters and notes. And I'm a big believer in that, like, original form of storytelling, of writing a note card to somebody.
A lost art some way.
Yeah, and so I want you to talk to a little bit about those letters, the letter that
Yeah.
you wrote to him that he never got, the email that you found in his drafts, which was a letter to you. Talk to me about the importance of those letters in your lives and why you think that matters.
I think it matters more than ever now, especially, my daughter and I have this rule now that we always leave each other voice notes, that we leave each other long messages of love, that we leave each other video messages so we can have them. I'm grateful because I had JR as a public figure, but also he was the guy who liked to still use the old traditional form of communicating, which is writing. And he used to tell me, I used to say, "Why do you write me so many notes and letters when I'm right in front of you?" And he said, "Because I don't want you to misunderstand anything I'm saying. I want to make sure you understand that everything I'm saying is coming from my heart. And sometimes we use our words and they can cut people in a way that we don't mean to cut them."
Yep.
And he was right about that. And, I was more of the person like, "Well, no, I want to talk to you face to face. I want to tell you this face to face." And we would do that too, but he was better at his communication when it was written. So I have thousands of love letters that he had written me, and and I've left them all in this one beautiful Louis Vuitton trunk. I wanted to get something beautiful to keep them in. But I also filled it with the letters that were like, trying to make me understand why he was doing things a certain way and why, he wanted to take our relationship slow in the beginning. He wanted to be sure that I was in it to win it with him. I left those in there because I knew one day my children will see them and they will open them up one day and they will see the type of man and the type of love story that we had. And I want them to know what love looks like. And they do. Like my daughter definitely knows what love looks like. My grandchildren definitely know what love looks like, but it's different when you read it because you can talk about it and you can write it even in the book letter. But when you see it in his own words, it's like it really existed.
Yeah, it's very personal as well.
It's so personal. And I love that you said that you love that old form. And I was, 18 years younger and young and wet behind the ears. And I was thinking, okay, but whatever. And I would just write back, "I love you," and send it. I communicated with them all the time. We probably said, "I love you" 20 times a day, easily,
Really?
but easily. But he would communicate in ways to me that I was not as good at. And he would communicate with ways with, "Why, Lauren, I'm not on the same time zone that you are. You want things to happen on your time period and I need more time." When I was 18, I was like, "Well, why don't we do it this way? And why aren't you in love with me right away? And I don't understand this." And he'd say, "Do you understand not everything happens on your clock? I need you to give me the time to really, when I'm going to go for it, you're going to know it." And it served my purpose well because I fell in love with this guy and he ended up, my mom told me before she died, he's going to be the most incredible husband, the most incredible father, and the most incredible grandfather. And he became that easily. And he did the work. I have to say something about Jared that he did. He committed to the work. Like he came from a different family, a much stricter family than I did.
Yeah.
Both of us had no money, but I grew up with parents who were mushy. My dad wasn't, but my mom was mushy and made us feel like we could accomplish anything. And he had a very strict mom. And so, when raising our daughter, I remember very clearly at the dining room table one day that, we were at a crossroads. How do we raise this child and see things eye to eye? And I said, "Can we just agree on love?" And we did.
Keep it simple.
And it ended up being the greatest thing we ever did because she ended up wanting to be following his footsteps. She ended up wanting to create her own brands, and she has. She ended up, always loving her father and wanting to go on every vacation except the final fatal one with him. She always wanted to spend her journey with him, and she knew what love looked like. And that is something that I will treasure for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I believe those are like the way that you've raised your daughter and you think about it as just you're giving them the example of how a relationship should look like.
It's what you pray for, it's what you hope for, and, I can tell, like, my little seven-year-old grandson will sometimes say to me, we'll be sitting on the plane, and he'll look at me, and he'll say, "Mimi, when my wife dies one day, I'm gonna be really sad like you are." And I said, "I know." And then he's like, "Do you think I'll be able to handle it like you do?" And I said, "Do you think I handle it well?" He said, "I do. I'm really proud of you." And I realized, like, raising these little people to be something really big. And it's really important, and it's our job and our duty to put them on the right track, but it's their job
Yeah.
to flourish. And we can only give them the very best examples, that's all we can do is give them the best example we can be. And if we don't like something that we're doing, we need to tell them like,
Yep.
I'm only doing this because of this, but don't follow me on this because here's why. And when I'm honest with them, it works every time. Aiden, my eldest, who's 11, said to me the other day, he said, I saw him slip and I panicked because trauma just gets me a different way now.
Yeah, of course. You think about it completely differently now.
I panic. I'm not ready for it. And he said, Mimi, why do you panic so much? Everything's fine. I'm 11. I slipped. I can get back up and I'm okay. I said, do you know why? He said, why? I said, do you know that Pop-Up died in front of me and it broke me? And I panic when anybody slips or falls and I just see things different. And he hugged me. He said, Mimi, thank you for explaining that to me. I now know why you handle it differently.
Mhm.
That's it. That's all it took. A conversation. And we're afraid to have those conversations because we think kids are too small. We're afraid to talk about death. That's
No,
taboo.
that's not you shouldn't. You should definitely talk about it. If you want responsible children, give them responsibility. If you want independent children, give them independence. And if you want
Amen.
accountable children, give them accountability. It matters.
Exactly. You and I are on the same page. I mean,
Matters. It matters so much. I want to ask you a couple questions about the book, the process of writing the book. What was that
oh,
like for you?
hard. It was so hard. When I chose to start, I started. And I first started by keeping a journal. I'd never kept a journal in my life,
Really? Okay.
but I'm a writer. I never asked anybody to write for me, like as far as my whole life. Like I would write newsletters. I would write things about my feelings and blogs. And I kept a journal in my phone. And I kept writing things and remembering stories. But when you go through grief, as you personally know, you forget things at first
Yeah.
a lot. And then when I had to wait a year, and then I started in, February, and I started to realize, like, my God, I've got to write everything down because it's starting to come back to me. And as I wrote everything down, I started to realize that they were stories. One story would connect to another story, would connect to another story. And here, before you knew it, was 500 pages in my phone. I could show you, it's crack you up,
Wow.
that would go on forever. And literally, the stories would connect. And I was like, this is my book. And so I started to reorder it. And of course, you work with people who can help you get it in the right way, in the right format. But the story was mine. And I knew that I had remembered all these. I had written them down and it all started with the journal. And then when I began, it just started to go. And you tweak it back and forth. You're trying to figure out, and a publisher comes in and help and tells you which order you should put things in. Cause you're just writing down everything you
Yeah,
can
to
remember.
remember it, yeah.
But it was a very healing process. I will tell you that there's certainly a different, and I think you'll agree, a different Lauren from chapter 1 to the end.
Yeah.
And that makes me proud. Does Lauren still suffer every day? Do I still cry every single day? Do I still go through it? Do I miss him? Would I do anything to have him back? Anything, anything. I give it all up just to be with him and start it. I think we could start it over again. I tell him, anytime you're ready for me, JR, call for me. I'll come home with you. I always tell him that. And I truly believe that with my heart, this book has been part of my healing process. So I tell people, it's not a book about grief. I don't have the answers.
Yeah.
I could never tell anyone, you could never tell anyone, as you know, you lost both your parents, right? A month apart.
Yeah.
You can never tell anyone how to overcome grief.
Yeah.
You can't. All you can tell people to do is how to embrace it because it's a form of love
Form of love.
and you will live with it forever.
The way you wrote about it was so beautiful and so practical on how you should think about it differently and not fight it as something negative, but it's something that truly does, wrap your heart in love. Before we go, I want to ask you one last question. What do you want the reader to walk away from reading this?
Oh, I want them to walk away with saying, you know what? I want to pay attention to people around me who believe in me, who maybe I'm always looking for the masses. I'm okay looking for the minority. I can only, it only takes one person. Maybe that one person is you. Maybe that one person is you looking in the mirror like I've had to do and rebuild myself and look in the mirror and say, you know what? I can do it. I want them to walk away with saying, you know what? I'm going to drop a handwritten letter to my wife or my husband today and leave it on the bed. I want them to have something from me. I'm going to leave them a video message so they know how much I love them. I want to recognize love language for what it is. I didn't realize that Jared's love language was caring about my opinion and me helping him pick out his favorite shirt, and me telling him what kind of eggs he wanted. I didn't realize that until after I lost him. And I can't get it back. I can't get him back. I'd do anything for him to ask me scrambled or sunny side up. I would do anything to spread the word to somebody that pay attention to those love languages. They often get confused in messages and we get frustrated because we're busy, but take a step back and see love for what it really looks like and realize that you're worthy of it and you deserve it and learn to talk to the people because we're always short with the people around us.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want them to look around and say, you know what, I can change that right now and I don't have to lose someone like she did in order to make that change here and now.
The book is called Scrambled or Sunny Side Up, Living Your Best Life After Losing Your Greatest Love. An inspirational story, very moving, very, very well written. Honestly, I was like, the storytelling got me. And Loren, I'm so grateful for you and for you writing this book and sharing it with the world. It's beyond a love story. It's really a lesson on how we can live our lives with purpose.
Thank you. You are so amazing, so special, and I cannot wait to hug you when I see you in person.
Very soon, I hope.
Very soon, very soon. I can't wait to see you. That's beautiful, and I'm so grateful for
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Season 8 of Savvy Talk is back. I'm excited to get back into the podcast. I've missed talking to so many of you. And so I'm really thrilled to bring you a new format. We're going to do guest episodes where I'm going to interview some of the biggest newsmakers, trendsetters, business people that you want to hear from. And then I'm doing solo episodes where it's just basically going to be me talking about what's on my mind, what I'm seeing happening in the market, and taking your questions. If you have a question, you can go to the website, write me a question, and we'll answer those live on the podcast. Season 8 of Savvy Talk is here. I can't wait to get started. And subscribe and follow wherever you listen to your podcast. Savvy Talk is back, baby.